given the car we had, to bring it back in 3rd and 5th place I think was a good result for us. What are your thoughts about the race ending under the safety car and not being red flagged? Well, I think first of all the race director's got a really difficult decision to make. First in their mind is safety, and we've got a car stopped on the track in a difficult position, and the only way to remove it is with a crane. And in order to do that safely, you've either got to stop the race or you've got to get all the cars bunched up behind the safety car. And I think when you look at what happened, the safety car picked up George, it didn't pick up Max, which is probably what should have happened. And it took a while to get all the cars back together, it took a while to remove the stricken car, and then to let the sort of front cars behind the safety car get off into the distance so the race could restart. And it was never going to restart in that situation. I think from a team's point of view, what we really want is consistency. We want to see the rules applied in the same way each time so everybody knows what's going to happen. And I think once you say that, you've got a choice. Do you have a red flag and a restart of the race and 3 laps of racing? Or do you want the driver that's probably winning on merit, who's been in that position over 50 laps of the race, to go on and win the race? And I think they're difficult calls. I think from my personal view, it'd have been nice to have seen George fight at the end of the race, having potentially a chance to get another position or another couple of positions. But I also think in the way the race ended, actually the right driver won. And the fact that that happened under a safety car, that's just what happens in a race, and it's something we just have to accept. What was the reason for starting Lewis on the medium rather than the soft, and using the advantage in the soft tyre at the beginning of the stint? Well, it's true to say we would have got an advantage starting on that soft tyre at the start of the stint. It would have been a slightly quicker tyre. But we also know that we had a car advantage to the cars immediately in front of us. We had a slightly quicker car, and we were able to use that quicker car to overtake. The issue with starting on the soft is while we'd have got a few laps of advantage, the degradation on the soft would have meant the medium became quicker. And towards the end of the stint, we were better off having the medium tyre when we were starting to come up against quicker cars. The other advantage of being on the medium is it meant we could run longer. And so when you've got a quicker car, what you want to do is to try and run it in free air, where you're not held up by other cars. So if the other teams around us had started on soft and we started on the medium, they would have to pit earlier than us. And as a consequence, we'd have a chunk of time running in clean air, a chunk of time where we could maximise the pace of the car and get ourselves further up the field. On the radio at the end of the race, Lewis apologised for the damage he'd done to the car. What did he mean? I think Lewis was referring back to what had happened in Spa, where he tangled with Alonso at the beginning of the race, taking himself out of the race, but also in the process damaging his power unit. Some damage that we're still trying to fix and will allow us to bring it back later in the season. But the time it takes to fix that's meant that we had to run an older PU at the last race in Zandvoort, and at this race we had to bring a new PU into the pool. That new PU meant we had to take a penalty, and Lewis started from the back of the grid. Well, I think he had a fantastic drive to come from the back of the field all the way up to 5th with the car we've got. I think was a fantastic effort from Lewis. And I think what Lewis was really apologising for was the fact that he knew that if he'd have started where he qualified, he could have had an even better race. And it was just simply that. Why didn't Lewis pit under the safety car at the end of the race? Well, at that point, what we were trying to do is to work through all the various scenarios, and we're using the various bits of strategy software we have to help us make those decisions. So one scenario was that the safety car would never clear, that we'd never get a restart to the race, and actually that's what in the end turned out to happen. Another scenario is it would be red flagged, in which case we'd be able to change tyres in the pit lane. We looked at whether we could have brought Lewis in, put fresh tyres on, and how would that affect his race? Could he have got back through the field on those fresher tyres? And the final scenario was to say, could Lewis have held Perez on the tyres he had on? And our feeling was, the answer to that was yes. And in fact, if you'd have looked back at the radio communication to Lewis a lap or two earlier, we asked him about the restart of the tyres after the safety car, and he was happy that they would be in good shape. So that's what we chose to do. Did we perform better or worse than expectation this weekend? I think it's been a pretty frustrating season, not only from our sort of general performance level compared to where we've been in previous years, but also the sort of roller coaster we've been on race to race, where we've seen our performance go up and down. I think we've been working hard to improve performance, and we've gradually been doing that through the season. But we've also been trying to get on top of this understanding of why is it certain circuits are good for us and certain circuits are bad for us. And the work that's come out of that has sort of given us a tool that pretty much allows us to predict where we're going to be. So we knew going into Monza it was going to be a more challenging circuit. It was going to be a bit more like we'd seen in Spa and less like we'd seen in Zandvoort and Budapest. I think, having said that, given the car we had, to bring it back in 3rd and 5th place I think was a good result for us. I think it showed that we operated the car really well, the drivers got the best out of it. So given the position we're in with the car, I think I couldn't ask for any more than that. How does the team feel after the triple header, and what have we learnt that we can take into the rest of the season? Well, I guess first of all, probably fairly tired. I think having 3 races in a month is always a pretty tough ask, particularly the race team, but also the team in the factory. I think we've had some good races and we've had some not so good races, but I think what's really encouraging for me is that the understanding that's coming from the simulation work that we're doing, the understanding that's coming from the wind tunnel, that's allowing us to work out why our performance is going up and down, what we need to do to get back into the fight right at the front, and what we need to do over the winter. I think they're the key things. What we need to do over the next 6 races of the season is, well, we just need to do what we always do, which is race as best we can. You know, we want to try and fight Ferrari for that P2 position. We want to try and win a race this season, or multiple races ideally. And most of all, we want to get ourselves back on track so we're fighting properly for a championship next year. That's not any disrespect to our opposition. We've got fantastic opposition, but that's what we really need to do because we want to be back there. We want to be challenging for championships because that's what we're about. And so the next question, I guess, is the one people really want answers to, which is, are we going to go better in Singapore than we've been in Monza? Well, I think when you look back at the learning we've gathered over the season, I think we expect that Singapore to be a bit more like we've seen in Budapest and Zandvoort. It's a bumpy circuit, which is going to provide its challenges, but in terms of the nature of the corners, we think it'll be a bit better for our car. So hopefully we have a good result there. As always, we'll do all the pre-simulation work we need to do. We'll maximise our learning in the practice sessions, and hopefully we can turn that into a good result at the weekend. Thanks again for all your questions, and we'll be back again after Singapore.